This coronavirus pandemic is teaching us as American citizens a lesson. This is what I consider a teachable moment. You remember President Obama used to always say, this is a teachable moment. Well, this is a teachable moment for American citizens because when we are so used to being able to go into any store at any time and get whatever we want, we are used to it being right there on the shelves. You don't even think twice about, okay, I need to go get this, I'll just go get it. But because of this induced panic, basically, by the media, this induced hysteria by the media, people have run out and they have hoarded all the stores. Okay, now I myself had not even been to any of the grocery stores until today. Friday after work, I came home. But then instantly people were posting things on Facebook about all these empty shelves in the stores, and I'm just sitting back like, this can't be that bad. This can't be that bad. So today, I decided to go out myself and do some shopping. And I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, shelves were empty all over the store. All over. I don't care what you were looking for. Eggs, no eggs. Milk, no bread. No toilet tissue, no cleaning supplies. Whatever you asked for, whatever you were looking for, normal things that you just go and pick up and come back were not there. And I was just taking photos myself because I was like, I don't believe this. No cold cuts. I don't care what it is that you were looking for, you could not find in the grocery stores. I mean, so this taught me that, hey, wait a minute. We take a lot for granted in this country. This is a capital, free market, capitalistic country. But what it is teaching us is how they live in socialist countries, I guess. Because, the difference is, I think in socialist countries, they ration off things, okay? Because one of the stores sent out a list of all the things that you could only get because they just kept, going in there just hoarding and just getting everything out of the store. So in order to stay in business, first of all, they extended the hours of operations for later. And then they said they needed time to restock the shelves. But then they sent out a thing that you can only get so many of this and so many of that. So people say that's what they do in socialist countries. They just ration off. Only your family can only have two of these, or whatever. So this is a teachable moment for us as Americans, as this is how it is in socialist countries. I mean, maybe people will think of it that way. That's what people have been posting and that's what people have been saying. But I had another take on it. And the reason I have this take on it is because of a story that came out about, they're closing down schools. So, 2 weeks, all the schools around are shutting down for this coronavirus. They're trying to, keep it from spreading or whatever. And so it was an article that I posted. I posted it in the community section on YouTube, and I also posted it on Facebook. Now, I don't know where somebody posted the article, and I think I got it from them, and I just posted it. But what the article talked about was that because the schools are shutting down and the majority of the kids are on free lunches and they eat free breakfast and free lunch at the school when school's in session, with the schools being closed, those kids will basically starve if somebody don't take food to their home. So the government has to take the food because there's obviously at the house where these children live, there is no breakfast and lunch. And they say I've read up on it, and they say majority of these kids, those are the only meals they get, are the meals that they get at school. Now think about that. The only meals that a child gets are meals that they get at school. So if school is not in session, there's no food for the kid. So you start thinking, okay, well, where are the parents? How come the parents don't have food at home for their own children? Okay, that's the discussion. Now the comments on the YouTube channel, community section, and on Facebook were just half and half. We got people saying, you should be ashamed of yourself. This we should think about the children. No child should go hungry. And then other people said, wait a minute, this woman was irresponsible. Now, the lady that they talked about in the article, and I'm sure she agreed to be interviewed. Okay, she had to agree to be interviewed. So she has 6 children. Okay, and she said, she needed people to, she needed the government to feed her kids, because she didn't have the food, I guess. Now, people were saying, so we had half and half comments, okay? Some saying, think about the poor children, and then the other comments, she's irresponsible and it's not the taxpayer's job to feed them. Okay, so this is how I feel. First of all, nobody wants to see kids hungry. Everybody knows that. Everybody wants to feed kids. Nobody wants to sit around and see poor little kids not, because they're innocent to all of this. But you still have to look at the fact that the parent is responsible. Okay, this is not like one. And then people say, everybody makes mistakes. Okay, yes, one or two kids. But when you continue to make the same mistake, then there's a problem. But I think this is what the real problem is here, is the dependency upon the government. Because see, when you are totally dependent on the government to feed you and your children, it's going to come a time that the government is not going to be there in time. You see, they said they're scrambling. Okay, with normal people, if you have your own means to go out and buy food and prepare food for your own children, you don't have to scramble. But see, it becomes an emergency, people. It becomes an emergency when you cannot take care of yourself. You end up completely dependent on the government. And I think that's what has happened, because I'm reading where they said that they're feeding these kids these meals because that's the only meal they get. If they don't eat at school, they don't eat. Now you think about that. How is that possible? Now a lot of these parents are on food stamps, because to qualify for these free lunches and reduced meals, you qualify for the other two, I think. They say you qualify for the food stamps as well. Your income has to be a certain level for you to even qualify for the reduced to free lunch. And most of these are not even reduced. These are completely free lunches. Okay? So you have to say, okay, so if a person is on food stamps, what did they do with that? Okay, what did they do with the money, with the food stamp money? Because when you go out and get groceries, you go out and get enough groceries for your whole house. You don't say, okay, so some people are saying, well, some people, when they buy food and they know their kids are going to eat at school, they don't buy enough food for those 2 meals because they say the school is going to take care of that. Now, I don't know how you can shop like that. I don't know how you go to the grocery store and say, I'm not going to buy enough for lunch and breakfast. You just go get food. But obviously, that's not how it's happening. So, but listen, this is the part I wanted to stress. If you are a person that's totally dependent upon the government to bring you food, the people with means are going to go out and hoard everything, just like now. The people that have gone into these stores and just bought all the things off the shelf, they're going to get it first because they have their own means. They're not waiting for somebody to give them something. They're not waiting for a check. They're not waiting for anything. They're not waiting for anybody to load any money on a card for them. They go out and get what they want. So you're going to get what's left over once the government can get to you. That's what I'm saying. When you are totally dependent upon the government, you lose out. That's what happens. You and your kids are losing out because you have to wait and see what's left over. And not only wait to see what's left over, wait to see when you're going to get it. So in the meantime, you could be sitting back starving to death because you don't have any means to go out and get it yourself. Everybody else has gone out and gotten it. So that's what that taught me, is to never be totally dependent upon somebody else. And this is sad. And I think the problem is the government has done this because people said, people kept saying, I blame the government. I blame the government. Well, yeah, the government has fault in this, but the individual, the adult, has fault in it as well. Because the government has taught people, they called it an entitlement. They called it a benefit. You earn benefits. Okay, welfare and food stamps are not benefits, but that's what they've changed the name to. Benefits. So that means you it's some kind of benefit you're getting. Well, so people think that they're entitled to this. When you get comfortable like that and thinking that you're entitled to something, you're going to be the one that's left behind. Because one of these days, like Margaret Thatcher said, with socialism, she said the sad thing about socialism is at one of these days, you're going to run out of other people's money. That's what taxes is. When you get something from the government, it's tax money gotten from other people, taken from other people's paycheck. One of these days, if the government goes bankrupt, and it can go bankrupt, don't think that it can't. If it goes bankrupt, the only people going to suffer are the people that were dependent upon the government, because the government gets the money from the workers. So it's a sad situation for a mother to have to say, my kid is not going to have anything to eat if school's out of session. Now, I don't know what they do during the summer months. I'm hearing that they feed them all during the summer as well when they're at home. They're taking food home. So somebody needs to say, okay, wait, it needs to be something needs to be done. Okay, somebody needs to be held accountable. Because if you're receiving food stamps as well, you should be feeding your kids. Somebody's called it double dipping. Double dipping. That's what somebody in the comment section said. That's double dipping. They're getting food stamps, plus they're being fed at school. Like I say, I'm all for feeding children. I don't, advocate don't feed children. Nobody thinks that way in America. But it comes a time that you're going to have to step up and take responsibility for your children. Because when push comes to shove, people are going to think about their own children, just like they're hoarding things in these grocery stores. They're not thinking about your children. They're thinking about their children. And no matter how kind-hearted people are, when the push comes to shove, as my father used to always say, they're going to choose their own. They're not going to be thinking about your poor children at home. They're thinking about their own. So that's why everybody needs to be strong and independent and not dependent upon the government. To me, that was a sad story. And it was a shocking story to me because I didn't know it was that bad. One lady said in California, they're feeding the whole families. A school teacher said in one of my comment sections, she said she works with the school district. And she said, they're feeding the entire families. They're not just feeding the kids. So the families come, the parents or whatever come and eat too. So now something's wrong, people. That much dependency is harming those people. It's not just harming the taxpayer. It's harming those people to be that dependent upon the government that the government feeds you. You get food stamps and then the government feeds you every meal on top of that. What are you doing? Because like I say, if it ever comes down to it, and people start hoarding like they're doing now, your family's going to be the one left without. So this coronavirus pandemic has taught me, first of all, that this is how it could be under a socialist country. Basically, you could get rationed off things, and it taught me not to take anything for granted. Because I took it for granted that I could just go to the store and get whatever I want. And there was tons of things that I couldn't even get that I normally just go pick up with no questions asked. Not even a second thought. I'm going to go get this. I'll be back. Couldn't get it. But it also made me think about the people that are dependent upon the government. Because when things like this happen, the people that's going to be left behind, the people that are going to suffer are the ones that are dependent upon somebody else, the ones that are dependent upon the government. Have a blessed day.